Alright guys, we are back with another video. Today's Friday for me. I don't know what day it is for you, but happy Friday if it's your Friday. And I have a pretty cool video, and it actually is a topic that a bunch of you guys have asked for in the comments. So we've gotten a lot of comments about how to know what deal is a good deal, or especially in Baltimore and in the surrounding areas that we work in, how to know whether a property is worth buying and holding as a rental or not. What factors do we use? We're going to get into those factors today. I actually had a subscriber come by our office and talk to us about this exact topic. As a result of that, since there's so much interest, we're going to dive right into it. So let's get to it. We're going to give you real numbers. I'm going to show you how I analyze a deal, whether it's worth, on the surface level, whether it's worth buying or not. So we're going to talk about what I call the flipper's equation. Now this is an equation that I learned years ago from a guy who did flips, but it's still useful to get properties undervalued, to know what you need to buy them at. So the equation we use is ARV times 0.65 minus COR equals offer. Now, what did any of that just mean? So ARV means average resale value times multiplied by 0.65. 0.65 is your margin for profit, or the cushion of cash that you're building into the equation, which I'll explain more in a minute when we put actual numbers to it. And that you're building in your profit right there. Minus COR. COR stands for cost of repairs. So that's the amount of money it's going to cost for you to repair the property so that it's going to be in good rentable condition, equals offer. So all of that equation, ARV times 0.65 minus COR, equals what you should offer for that property. Now let's break it down with some actual numbers. Let's say you find a house in a neighborhood that is beat up, is messed up, and it's undervalued. And that's actually the whole point. You want to buy houses that are undervalued. And let's say if it were all fixed up, if it was perfect, if there was nothing wrong, it would be worth $200,000. So now you have, let's just use it as a baseline. So now we found a house that in perfect condition, it would be $200,000. So its ARV, its average resale value, is $200,000. So write that down, 200,000 times 0.65. So now you've taken the resale price and now you multiply 0.65. Now you minus what your cost of repairs are going to be. Let's say you walk through the house, or you're able to determine that the repairs are going to cost $25,000. So all of that combined equals what you should offer. So let's do math, right? So it's $200,000 times 0.65 minus $25,000 equals $105,000. So that's the offer you want to offer for that house, right? So you have a house that will be worth $200,000, but right now it's not worth $200,000. It's got work that needs to be done. Maybe it's foreclosed. Maybe it's in a neighborhood where there are houses that are worth $200,000, but this house is not worth $200,000. That's the kind of value you want to find. So that's the equation we use. We go into different neighborhoods in the city and in the county, the surrounding counties. We look for houses that are undervalued because they're either damaged, or they're going into foreclosure, or they're for some reason the seller needs to get rid of it, and we buy them under value, right? So we use kind of the equation as a starting point in our head, and we say, okay, this house is going to be worth $200,000. I'm going to multiply times 0.65. I'm going to say it needs $25,000 of work, or maybe it needs $20,000. In any case, it needs about $25,000 of work. You go to the seller, you say, hey man, I really want this house. We want to invest the time and money into it to get it back up to par, but we can only offer $105,000. Now, the great thing about this equation is it builds in some room for negotiation, because when you offer $105,000, a seller might say, a seller might say, no, I can't sell it for 105. I owe 115 on it. You can go up a little bit. You know, that 0.65 allows you a little bit of margin for error. You can go up and you can say, I can't pay 115, but I can pay 110. I can pay cash. And the seller think about it. And in most cases, you can come to a deal where you will buy the property at enough of a undervalued rate that you will leave a lot of value in it for yourself at the end of the project to be able to maximize your potential cash flow and have a lot of equity in it from the time that you bought it to the time that you fix it up to now that it's worth the ARV that we started out with. So you want to bring it, you want to spend the money to renovate it, get it back to that place where it's worth $200,000, then rent it out all fixed up to someone and start cash flowing it. Now, the equation itself leaves folks like you with a bunch of questions that I know you're going to ask. And here are 3 questions that I know you're going to ask about the tail end of this equation. Number 1, how do you find comps, right? So it's great, Allan, you know, it's great that you know that houses are worth $200,000 in this area, but how do I know that houses are worth, you know, how do I go and find what the average comp is in the area so that I can understand if there's a house that's undervalued or not? And that's a good question. Where do you find comps, or how do you find comps? That's number 1. The second question I think you're probably wondering is, how do you know what a house will rent for, right? So even though you know that a house might be undervalued, even maybe you figure out the answer to question 1, the question remains, how do I know whether this house will rent for enough money to cover the mortgage and for me to still make money? And that's a good question. It's a question that needs to be answered. You need to be able to figure out what a house will rent for so that you can find out if it's worth it. That's question 2. And question 3 is, how do you know how much repairs will cost? So you go into a house, you know that it's messed up, you know that it could be worth more, you know that you know that you're building in your profit margin, but how do you know when you're looking around how much repairs are cost? How much repairs will cost? These are 3 very important questions. You need to be able to answer those 3 questions along with the flipper's equation in order to make sure you cover your tracks to make sure that you know that a deal is a good deal, right? So how do we answer those questions? The answer is, I'm going to give you the answer to those questions in the next video. So stay tuned.